Okay, so let's review this before we get into the setup of the host machine. I get a lot of questions in the discussion forums about what the goal is here. So let me try to clarify. We are trying to use a physical system to install a virtualized platform so that we can then load virtualized computers or operating systems that we throw attacks against. Got it? Now, if you want to use Windows 10 or the latest server platform for your host machine, then go for it, so long as it supports virtualization. Now, the reason why I include this step-by-step of installing the host machine is that some viewers might be new to virtualization or they've never set it up before. So we'll be patient with them. Now, as far as the virtualized OSs are concerned, if you're not able to get a hold of things like Windows 8 or Server 2012 R2, the goal here is just to look at how different operating systems will respond. So again, don't focus on I couldn't download this particular OS because it's no longer available. Instead, replace it with something different that you do have access to so that you can see what the attacks look like against those machines. So the host machine is going to be a little unique in the fact that you will have to burn the file that I'm about to show you. You have to burn this to DVD or maybe put it onto a bootable USB drive. But what you're going to want to do is very simply go to the TechNet Evaluation Center. And you can get there by Googling it. And you'll have to come in and log in. You can see I've actually logged in. It requires a Microsoft account, so like either Hotmail or an Outlook.com account. And afterwards, this is actually kind of a great place to come to get some updates of what's coming out. Plus, you can kind of play around. They've got some virtual labs that you can play around with. But I'm going to come over here to the to the Evaluate Now drop-down. And I'm going to come down here and select I'd like to run Server 2012 R2. You'll notice here that we have Windows 8.1. Guess what? I'm going to be coming back here to get Windows 8.1 a little later. But I'm going to go ahead and start this. Grab the 2012. And it breaks it down. It shows me all the different 2012 products here, including the Essentials product. Here's that Hyper-V server that's completely free. Notice it's unlimited. Where the other ones typically have are, and of course there's a Hyper-V Server 2012 R2, so there's the R2 editions, which is a newer edition for those of you guys that aren't familiar with it. The other ones are 180-day evals. So you'll notice up here, it says 180-day eval. It asks me what type of an install I want to use. Well, because this is going to be my host machine, I'm going to grab the ISO, hit register to continue. I'm going to stop the video just for a second. In your world, you're going to see it come up and verify some information about you, and then you'll continue from there. So hang on, I'll be right back with you. So it comes up and says, hey, where do you want to save this file? And I've got a folder here that I just created called CEH project. I'm going to come in here. Here's a subdirectory that I called ISOs, where I'm going to place my ISOs. And I'm just going to give this a different name, though, because this could be really confusing for me. So I'm going to call this one Server 2012 R2 Trial. Now, I'm going to use this two different times. I'm going to have this as a physical DVD, which I'll burn out using some type of DVD burning software, hopefully you have. Or I could move it over to a bootable USB drive. But then I'm also going to use it later because I want to have a virtual machine that's also running 2012. So I'm going to use this file twice. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And that's going to start the download. Well, let's go, while we're here, let's go get the other source CDs. I'm going to come back up here and select I'd like to get Windows 8.1 Enterprise. Same thing comes up here. Looks like this is only a 90-day eval, but that's okay. I'm going to show you, remember, I'm going to show you a command that's going to allow you to reset the 90 days when it expires or when you get close to expiring. So you get another 90 days, and you can do that 3 times. Again, I'm going to continue to register, and again, I'm not going to show you. So hang on, I'll be right back with you. Okay, again, it's kicking me up and asking me where I want to save the ISO. So I'm going to just highlight all this thing, and I'm going to make this easy to remember. I'm just going to call this Windows 8.1 Trial. So I'm going to hit save, and we'll let that download. Okay, while those are downloading, I'm going to go ahead and grab Windows Server 2008 R2. The easiest way to do this is just do a simple Google search for, I usually do trial. You can see here, Server 2008 R2. In this case here, it's my first link up here. So I'm just going to click on it. Takes me to the download section here for 2008 R2. Again, it's 180-day eval. I'm going to select the language. I'm going to hit continue. Again, it's going to ask me, where do you want to save this? I'm going to call this one again, server 2008 R2 trial. I'll let that download. Now, going after Windows 7 is a little bit more difficult. And the reason behind that is because, again, Microsoft is wanting people to not necessarily try Windows 7. You more than likely are using it already. They'd prefer you to actually use Windows 8.1. So if I go back to that previous Google search, you'll notice that there's a link here that says to grab a Windows Server 08 R2 and Windows 7 eval version. This is actually on a Microsoft site. It takes you this nice little article about how you can get a hold of these. If you click on the link for Windows 7, it actually takes you to the eval center and does not pull up Windows 7. It pulls up strictly the Windows 8 stuff because they've taken the 7 off. Now, in order for me to fix that for you guys, what I've done is there is an evaluation version available to you. Now, this evaluation version is based off of Windows 7 Service Pack 1 with Internet Explorer 9. There's 7 separate downloads, and I did some tiny URLs for you so you can find them very quickly. If you will just go to http://ethicalw7p1 and then obviously through p7 would be the downloads. Grab those. We're going to put those into a single directory, just like I've done here. The first one is an executable, and the rest of them are just RAR files that are needed for the executable to launch. When you uncompress these, in fact, while those other ones are downloading, let's go ahead and uncompress that. I'm going to just double click on it. It's going to bring up a license agreement here for me. I'm going to hit next, or I should say I agree. It then says, where do you want to uncompress this? Well, we're going to uncompress this. I'm going to create a folder here called, we'll go Windows 7. This may take some time to uncompress. So while that's uncompressing, I'm a multitasking type of guy. Let's go ahead and get a hold of Kali for us. So we're going to come back to our web interface, and we're just going to simply type in www.kali.org. Okay, so this is the Kali web page. And just a side note, depending on when you're watching this particular course, the page could change, but obviously you can adjust to that. You're competent. I know you are. We're going to come here to the Downloads section and select Download Kali Linux. And I am then presented with a plethora, it's a great word, a plethora of options here. And these options are based off of different versions, and within each version, 64-bit or 32-bit, there's also versions within those. And then they've also got these virtualized machines that they've already created. Oh, look at that. They did give Microsoft some love. So if you want, you could download this Hyper-V file here and just mount it inside of a Hyper-V virtual machine that you've created. And of course, if you scroll down here a bit more, they have some here for ARM, if you have any ARM CPU-based systems that you want to try to use it on. But again, I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm going to go ahead and select the 64-bit full version. You could do this via torrent. Please don't. I mean, I understand that torrents are great as far as file transfer is concerned, but we all know what other people use it for, and I'm not a real big fan of downloading any file from a torrent just because of they're typically packed with other things. Obviously, I wouldn't get it from here, but other files. But that's for a whole nother course as well. I'm going to select the HTTP option here. The torrent version would go faster. Now, also a side note, you could select the light version and then actually upgrade the light version to the full version. But when you do that, it has to download everything that you would have gotten anyway if you would have selected the full version. In this case here, it's about 2 gigs. So we might as well grab it now. I'm going to hit the HTTP option there, and then it gives me a name here. It's going to be an ISO file. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And we're going to go ahead and let that download. And when we come back in the next clip, we'll actually show you how to set all this up. Okay, listen up. If some of the links that you're dealing with here expire on you, don't worry about it. just go get a DVD or an ISO from another source. If by chance you're thinking of sourcing those files from a pirate site or a torrent site, please don't. When you get to my ethical hacking malware threats course, you'll start to see why. Now, I know you might insist on still trying to use those types of files. And if you do, good luck on having a secure machine. In fact, maybe you should just take your hands off the keyboard and slowly walk away from the computer.